Barber beats is an online music genre that I find fascinating. Its explosive rise in the 2020s has been extremely impressive. Hundreds of these colorful releases most likely popping up in your YouTube recommendations with hundreds of thousands of plays, sometimes millions. The overall sound of Barber beats features heavily sampled down-tempo tracks consisting of all sorts of source material and inspiration, pulling from all styles: trip-hop, new jazz, lo-fi house, atmospheric hip-hop, and countless other mellow music styles. The end result is a suave, luxurious blend of soundscapes fitting for a, you guessed it, relaxing haircut at that beloved barbershop nestled deep within the alleyways of a bustling city. However, because a big majority of Barber beats are just a collection of tracks with virtually no edits at all from the original sample material being sourced, there has always been heavy discourse online of whether this is morally correct or not for Barber beats artists to release, especially when they also want to sell their work digitally or in physical form. Well, today, I want to take a trip through this entire musical movement with you from its inception to where we are today. We'll take a look at a couple Barber beats classics, recent hits, and also some projects that really seem to take the genre in a refreshing, unique direction. We'll also take a look at all the controversy surrounding the genre, regarding whether or not it's right or wrong that these music uploads even exist in the first place, so stick around for the whole video. We're going to take a look at everything. If you are into interesting or just lesser known music releases found within the depths of the internet, you are in the right place, my friend. So subscribe for future uploads and throw a like on the video if you don't mind. You know the deal, doing so helps the channel out tremendously, and I cannot thank you enough for all of your support over the years. And one last thing before we begin, you can check out today's topic in written form over at Vapor95's Darknet blog. Check out their awesome shop when you can. A link to everything will be in the description down below. Cheers, and let us begin. The inception of Barber beats can be traced all the way back to a producer known as Haircuts for Men, whose original works can be traced all the way back to 2014. Over the years, HFM would release projects like Marble Fantasy and Down, Tumble, and Die, that's what this translates to when I put it in Google, both gaining massive popularity within the online music realm. For a couple of years, this artist was the main figure behind this type of sound. I can't really pinpoint when the term Barber beats actually came to life, but it's pretty obvious that the name stems from the works of Haircuts for Men. There is an excellent article by Van Palm called Barber Beats, the Future of Vaporwave, that states the term was coined by Allo City World to describe the sound created by HFM, Allo City World being the leading record label in getting Barber Beats projects out there on physical form. The artwork of Haircuts for Men was also a staple to the whole experience of these releases. Beautiful color pairings and textures overlapping typefaces, statues, and other sorts of imagery. There is a vintage and natural feel to them, but also something so crisp, clean, and modern, with every element always feeling perfectly placed in the composition. Marble Fantasy, I would say, is the most well-known Haircuts for Men release, a lengthy project for only 6 tracks long. The mellow and soft pianos are given some energy with some reverb-soaked drum beats behind them. Many Haircuts for Men releases are similar with one another, but it was this one for some reason that really seems to be the release most people think of when the name Haircuts for Men is brought up. Down, Tumble, and Die is another release that, at least for me, pops up in my mind when I think of HFM. Just like Marble Fantasy, this project also consists of soothing drums paired with quaint sample material, synths, washed out vocals, and more shiny piano keys. For a while, it seemed like Haircuts for Men was the only artist truly dedicated to not only this sound, but sound atmosphere, let's say, of a virtual musical barbershop you can access simply from your headphones. But eventually, in the 2020s, the genre found its footing with a multitude of artists who have had some releases do some serious numbers throughout the internet. Artists like Macro Blank, Oblique Occasions, Modest by Default, Monodrone, Slower Pace, Ozcob, Godspeed, and many others all dropped projects that played a heavy role in the growth of the movement. Macro Blank is definitely one of the biggest hits out of this scene in the 2020s, with releases like It Hurts Forever and Separation, carrying the torch from Haircuts for Men with a similar style of samples used, as well as that colorful, aesthetically pleasing artwork. 2022 saw one of my personal favorite Barber Beats projects, Anathema by the Baltimore-based Oblique Occasions, just really tasty, laid-back sample selections recycled into this mixtape collection of sweet-sounding journeys into jazz. The track on there, titled No Love, is simply gorgeous. Modest by Default is also one of my personal favorite figures in the Barber Beats scene, in particular 2023's Permaculture being a definite standout. Exquisitely chill under just an hour for you to finish this journey from start to end. There is also the Raw Practices series, volumes 1 through 3, which features UFC fighters for album artwork, and me being a huge UFC fan, how am I not going to check out an album with a cover that features a bloody Diego Sanchez on it? Like, what? While many Barber Beats projects, as mentioned multiple times through this video, can feel repetitive due to their dependency on ultra chill, loungy sample flips all the time, some projects tend to take things up a notch with more unique themes, settings, and some are even tied to an online music cult. Before we get into all this though, I wanted to take a quick second to thank everyone who is or has supported me on Patreon throughout the years. If you're interested in helping support the channel and what I do, as well as getting a bunch of cool rewards like access to our patron-only Discord server, Club Chennington, check out my Patreon page through the link in the description below this video. Thank you, and let's get back to the music. Snowpoint Lounge is a Barber Beats artist who ties in the world of Pokemon with their releases, for example, using everything from sampled Pokemon soundtracks, tracklist titles, and some really awesome artwork, all tying the entire package together to really showcase Snowpoint Lounge's love for the series. The Brazil-based SLOWERPACE is also another personal favorite of mine and many in the Barber Beat scene, due to each of their releases taking on a whole new world, atmosphere, or tribute to another piece of media or culture. This is another artist who is heavily inspired by video games and gaming box art in particular. I've talked about their Barbershop Simulator release on the channel in my Getting Lost on Bandcamp series, a 13-track collection of tunes that encapsulate the background music in a haircut tycoon meets Grand Theft Auto game of sorts. Metaverse Sports Resort and Pyromaniacs are some other releases as well in the SLOWERPACE catalog that features a heavy influence from video games and their art style. If you're looking for a great read, KJHK Radio did a wonderful interview with SLOWERPACE, which I will leave for you in the description of this video. Skin Dance and the Creep Tapes is a whole nother beast, which I plan on discussing fully in a future video, but these 4 releases feature a dark, ambient, and industrial twist on the Barber Beats formula, tracks with a bit more distortion and texture that pairs it with a pretty fascinating situation. The artist is apparently part of an online music cult, and more can be discovered if you were one of the people who picked up one of their extremely limited cassette releases. Each cassette contains a QR code, which the label insists that if you scan the QR code within the J card, I take no responsibility as a label for anything that happens thereafter. Yeah, like I said, I'ma save all that for a future video. So I'm definitely a fan of Barber Beats, and there are pockets of days throughout the year where I listen to nothing but this type of sound as I do work, travel for shows, or simply drive to the grocery store. They are fun little snacks of mixtapes that look really nice artwork-wise and help me focus on a task at hand. I like to think of Barber Beats as audio coffee. And I also realize that many Barber Beats projects are just simple sample flips with virtually no edits at all from the original sample being used in the tracks. Samples can maybe be pitched up or pitched down, but besides that, there are many times when Barber Beats artists are literally taking entire tracks from other artists and just slapping them onto their own music upload with fancy artwork and Japanese or Chinese track titles. Nothing more than recycled, plundered works from existing creations, and because of this, there is always going to be discourse online of whether this is morally correct or not, especially when Barber Beats artists also want to sell their work digitally or in physical form. As I was writing what I wanted to say for this video, I found it very hard to decide what to even refer to people who upload Barber Beats onto the internet as. Do I call them producers? Do I call them artists? I wasn't even really sure, but something I do find quite frequently in the Barber Beat scene is that many of these people releasing these projects also don't even know what to call themselves. Many of them state in their Bandcamp bios that much of what they do is plundered or recycled from other artists. Modest by Default, for example, stating, "Virtually everything is plundered and absolutely everything is free." When asked what advice they would give to someone looking to start their journey as an indie producer, SLOWERPACE responded with, "I don't consider myself a producer, just an enthusiast and a guy who likes playing with software." The Haircuts for Men bio also famously states, "I take some credit, but most everything is plundered." We've also seen entire discographies get wiped from Bandcamp due to the heavy repurposing of existing music being uploaded into these Barber Beats projects. Macro Blank I don't believe exists anymore on Bandcamp, and the entirety of Haircuts for Men was removed in the past as well. And things can also get even fishier when Barber Beats artists and labels aim to release these projects on vinyl or cassette. How far can one go in making these Barber Beats releases something they can claim monetarily? Do I have the ultimate answer and truth on this subject? Obviously not. You can get lost and lost some more in Reddit posts with people going back and forth on how Barber beats are low effort and shouldn't have garnered such a following or appreciation. But at the same time, personally for me, it's hard to justify thinking it's completely wrong when there has been so many examples of low effort sample manipulation, not just in the vaporwave scene, but other music genres and subgenres out there as well, that people aren't in an uproar about. It all comes down to really your personal subjective opinion on where the line is crossed. This is what makes Barber beats so deliciously enjoyable, that it can subvert what people think vaporwave should be or is allowed to be. It was only a matter of time before what was understood as vaporwave conceptually would start to evolve, and this process has led to a paradoxical movement where vaporwave itself is becoming the source material for newer vaporwave. Van Palm, Barber beats, the future of vaporwave. At the end of the day, Barber beats just really captures the essence of how disposable things seem to be in this day and age in the realm of being online. And it's not like people are getting rich from these releases. Trust me. On YouTube, for example, coming from a YouTuber himself, I can't see many of these Barber beats artists making much from ad revenue on these releases that even get into the millions of views. YouTube has gotten so good at detecting copyrighted material and automatically reroutes your ad revenue to the respective artist or platform that owns said content. And with so much of these Barber beats projects containing literally just a song slowed down, I can't see much profit happening there when they are definitely getting rerouted somewhere else. In regards to physical releases, coming from someone who ran a record label as well, getting vinyl produced this day and age with how expensive things have become barely turns a profit. And as independent small record labels on the internet, you're really doing it for your love of physical media at a certain point and not to make a bunch of money. I don't think labels are really out here to become millionaires from releasing Barber beats on vinyl or cassette. I think there's just a love to see these repurposed works and mixtapes, because that's a huge majority of what these really are. Mixtapes brought to life in physical form with really cool looking records and packaging. It's tough though, because it's also very understandable to say that no one should even be making a penny off of any of this. It's tough to say this is all fine, especially when another artist can be completely unknown to the fact that their hard work has just been sped up or slowed down slightly and is being profited on by someone else, regardless of how much money is actually being made. But as someone who is also a fan of genres like signal wave, or even some of our favorite classic vaporwave releases, and how much joy those projects have given to me, is it just for me to say that these projects are okay, but these aren't? Is looping a section of a sample ad nauseum with some added drums instead of just playing the whole thing outright but just slowed down a little bit, is that the cutoff line for what is creative and what is stealing? What is the cutoff for what's right and what's wrong? Barber beats will always just be this background aura of sound that accompanies me to get things done throughout the day. Overall, the ability for someone to repurpose something, regardless of how much of it is changed, and upload said project onto the internet seems to be a sign of the times. There's so much being uploaded online in every direction, in any field or creative output, every second of every day. And as we progress further and further into the future, we're only going to see even more instances of situations in music where we inevitably question whether it's right or wrong to not just monetarily support someone in what they are doing, but just the fact of listening to it in general. If anything, I do hope we see more artists get a bit more experimental with the samples used, and there are projects out there that do so. I also love when any online music scene aims to bring the community into the real world. Aloe City World hosted a live Barber Beats show out in London, and it is directions like this that will only further enhance the creativity and uniqueness in this interesting little electronic music genre that has found itself a comfy home throughout your YouTube algorithms in the past couple of years. But I would love to hear your thoughts on Barber Beats and whether you believe it's right or wrong in the comments down below. Do you tend to stay away from these types of releases, or do you enjoy them? I think we're only going to see more and more of these releases as time goes on. They can be irresistibly catchy at times, from the sound itself to the artwork that pulls you in, and it's fascinating to watch it grow and grow ever more.